Good afternoon, and thank you for coming in on a Sunday. Last week, several more school districts announced that they would be beginning the school year with a virtual-only classroom. More school districts may announce again this coming week. This is a prudent decision. The data shows that the coronavirus continues to spread in St. Louis County. Wherever groups of people gather, from there to our homes and to our family homes. The Public Health Department and I have urged schools and parents to choose a virtual option whenever they can, at least for the first quarter of the school year. Most St. Louis County residents are masking and social distancing and following our public health guidelines of occupancy capacity and crowd sizes. And continuing those practices and making them universal gives us the best chance at an in-classroom learning option sooner. August, which has begun this weekend, is traditionally the time for back-to-school shopping. This year, the year of COVID-19, internet access is a basic school supply. But it's a school supply that just isn't acceptable and isn't accessible to thousands of our residents. In March, St. Louis County Public Library surveyed schools and school superintendents and discovered that at least 10,000 households in St. Louis County didn't have access to the internet at home. And since then, the schools and the libraries have been working together to try and address this gap. And the schools and the school districts have bought thousands of tablets and laptops. And that's an important first step. But the fact remains that many schools in St. Louis County don't have access to the internet. Many families don't have access to the internet at home. So I've committed $4 million from the CARES Act funds to try and address this challenge. In partnering with the library and the school districts, we've been working to find the right combination of investments to make the biggest impact as possible. So here's what we've come up with. St. Louis County and our partners will be able to provide 12,500 hotspots to help close the internet access gap in St. Louis County. Hotspots like this one. Now, frankly, this internet access gap should have been closed well before the COVID-19 pandemic. We'll also be able to provide 2,500 more tablets and Chromebooks to make sure no kid slips through the cracks based on what their school districts are already provided. Chromebooks like this one. This is an HP Chromebook. Working with the library, we're also going to be able to provide a professional tutoring service for students in St. Louis County through the website tutor.com, which will be in partnership with the library. This will be available 7 days a week and 12 hours a day. And this professional service will be available to any student in St. Louis County and any school without exception. Now, virtual school is going to be hard on students and families and their parents. My own son was looking forward to going back to school for a senior year and for school sports this fall. And he's disappointed. His mom and I are disappointed. And we're disappointed for all families in St. Louis County in a similar situation. But I'm committed to doing what it takes to make sure that every student in St. Louis County has access to the technology that they need to participate in a virtual classroom. And we'll invest whatever we have to make sure we reach that goal. Now, to access this program that the library is calling the Digital Equity Initiative, parents will go through their school districts. And the school districts will be submitting information to the county library and about the need for hotspots and tablets in their district. And we spent the last months talking to school districts about their planning for a virtual classroom. And a lot of school districts have told us about their needs. And we expect to hear from more school districts in the coming days. Now, we hope to have the form for school districts to fill out available on the county webpage tomorrow, and a link from stlcorona.com to that form So school districts will be able to collect that information. This isn't going to be a school year that anyone wanted, but we're going to work to make it as safe as possible. And every St. Louis County student will have the technology that they need and the tutoring support that they need to be successful in a virtual classroom. And I'd be glad to answer any questions.
When you talk about every student, you're talking about private schools as well as public schools?
Yeah. So this is a program through the St. Louis County Library System, and the St. Louis County Library is open to all students. The county library already offers a limited number of these hotspots to check out to people with a county library card. And everyone, every student in every school in St. Louis County has access to a county library card, and the library already has relationships with the schools. So this is an easier transfer of information and technology. But any student in any school will have access to those tutoring services.
Forgive me for not being technologically advanced, but so they basically go up to the counter and with their library card check out one of these hotspots, or how does this work?
Oh, well, this is available for county residents, but for this program, we're going to be working through the school districts. So the parents will need to contact the school districts, or the school districts will have to collect the information about the needs for that individual family. And then the school districts will compile that information, submit it to the library's program, which at this point is funded with $4 million through the St. Louis County CARES Act. And then the library will work with the schools to make sure that the technology, whether it's a hotspot or a tablet or a Chromebook, is made available.
So those hotspots go home with the kids?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. They go home with the kids and they can share them in a family. These hotspots can have up to 5 devices on them. So this is for a household. And it's an important part of the digital divide that we have to address if we're going to have virtual schoolwork for everyone this fall.
Do the hotspots then go away for just library users? Like, do they not?
Well, this hotspot for kids is a year subscription, but in the library, it's a monthly checkout. The county library has a limited number of these hotspots available, but this is a sample, and this program is a sample of what we're doing and what the county library is doing in cooperation with St. Louis County to make these hotspots available to families who need them in St. Louis County. But we know that there is at least 10,000 families who don't have access to the internet at home, and that is an important link so those kids can be successful in a virtual learning environment this fall.
So you said 10,000 families, you said you have 12,000 of these, so in your mind, everyone should be covered.
Well, we know at least 10,000, right? And you know, this is a new program, so there may be gaps. So we'll be watching it very closely, and we'll be working with our school districts who do a great job in identifying the needs of their students and have a long history of partnering with the St. Louis County Library.
When it comes to the money from the CARES Act, is that flowing okay now? Do you have enough?
Yeah, if you look at if you look at the transparency portal on stlcorona.com, you'll find the budget for how it's intended to be spent. You'll find what's been spent so far, and then there's another pie graph of what's under contract. But we have identified the 3 crises of this pandemic: the public health crisis, and then the humanitarian crisis, and then of course the economic crisis. And the division and the appropriation of those CARES Act funds are follow along those pathways.
So what would be next in your mind as far as other projects to spend the CARES Act funds on?
Well, right now we're working on rental assistance. There's a grant process underway right now for the health department to increase access to underserved areas in St. Louis County. We talked about that last week. There are 18 zip codes that have been identified, 17 of them in North County and 1 in the Lima area in South County. So we're adding primary care services in the county for not just for health screenings, but also dental services, optometry services, mental health services, but basically scaling up the availability of primary care services. We just purchased 30,000 COVID-19 tests. They're new saliva tests that will supplement what we're doing in St. Louis County in the testing environment, and will allow us to increase our partnership with the federally qualified healthcare settings for their testing footprint as well.
What's the reason to go to the saliva test?
Well, we feel very strongly that we should diversify our testing partnerships. And what we've seen in this country is the two main lab systems have been overwhelmed by the explosion of COVID-19 in our country. And we are competing with everyone in our country to get our tests run on machines that are overwhelmed and breaking down. So what's happened in this testing environment are that tests from people who are in the hospital and are really sick are going to the front of the line, and tests from people in a community setting that are asymptomatic are being run in 5 to 7 days, sometimes longer, sometimes 2 weeks. And that sort of testing environment does not work well with a robust case investigation and contact tracing system. We need to get that testing window down and get that results window down. And the saliva tests are a different technology, and they help us close that gap. But we want as many different testing sources as we can in the public health department.
You talked in the past about how you noticed the challenge that some parents would have on being able to have their kids stay at home. And I know you're not a superintendent, but I talked to a superintendent yesterday in the city. They're going to open 20 different sites, be social distancing, where these kids can go from like 8 to 3. Have you had any conversations like that with the other school districts?
Well, some school districts are still looking at a hybrid model, and some have a hybrid model ready to go if the level of coronavirus in our community drops to the point where they feel like it's safe. And that'll be a decision they make in partnership with our health department. What
he was digging is that they're 100% stay at home until mid-October.
Mhm.
These facilities will be open and they will be accessible for students that can come in there whose parents both work or it's
Right.
a single parent.
Yeah, I think so the question really is, what do you do for parents whose kids don't really have a good place to go, if they, first responders or other parents in essential jobs where they don't have good cross coverage for daycare. And I think the school districts and the community organizations are going to work together to close that gap. We know that it's a challenge, and that's why we're investing CARES Act funds into daycares to help make sure the daycares are stood up and that are strong. But we know that we're going to need some other resources, and that'll be up to the school districts to help manage that. They'll be working in partnership with our Department of Human Services in the county and other community partners that traditionally run after-school programs that might scale up some of their services.
If some of the parents are a little intimidated by that little box you got on there, are they going to get help on how to set that up?
Yeah. Well, this comes with instructions and a charger, and it's relatively straightforward. I mean, if you've got a tablet or a laptop, you just look for the Wi-Fi signal and accept it. These will come home with instructions. And we understand that there is a technical knowledge gap into adopting virtual technology, which we've all learned about over the past 3 or 4 months. But we have to bridge that gap. And that's why we wanted to make sure online tutoring support was available to help these kids. We've got a good partnership with the library for that service as well, and not just our public schools, but any student in any school in the county.
One
Other
more
questions?
favor to ask. Can you just do a little show and tell with that, so we get some video of the
Sure.
hotspot and perhaps the tablet?
Yeah, so this is an example of the hotspots. Pretty simple, and we expect to have 12,500 of these through the county public library system in partnership with our public schools in St. Louis County. This is the county public library system is calling this the Digital Equity Initiative to help us bridge the technology gap that some families, that we recognize that some families don't have access to the internet and will not be able to participate in a virtual classroom unless we close that gap.
Geographically speaking, are there particular hot pockets, if you will, around the county where there's
Yeah.
folks able to-
Yeah, the traditional pockets, there are several pockets in North County and in South County around the Limay area. The same pattern that we've seen, that we focused a lot of our humanitarian resources of our CARES Act funding. There's a pocket in southwest St. Louis County as well. Yeah, we've got those maps. We could make those available. I don't have one with me, but we do have maps of zip codes where we know there is a digital divide, an internet access gap for families in St. Louis County.
I am interested in that. Is that online, the access?
I'll get you a copy of that before you leave. I'll make sure you have a copy.
Doctor, would you mind holding up the notebook as well?
Oh, sure. Yeah, so these are the Chromebooks that we'll be making available through the St. Louis County program, the Digital Equity Initiative that the county library system is running in cooperation with school districts.
And again, I think you talked about, but so tomorrow, parents can go online and sign up for all these.
No, the parents need to communicate through their school districts about their needs.
Oh.
And the school districts will be presenting their needs to the county program in a bundle per school district. So parents who have technology needs or tablet needs for their students need to communicate through their school districts. And then the school districts will compile those needs, and then they will communicate that to the county library system.
So that when you said something was happening tomorrow, that's what you're talking about? They-
Tomorrow, the school districts will be able to find the request form on the county library webpage, and there will be a link from stlcorona.com to that form. But we want to make sure that the parents are communicating with their school districts first about technology needs, internet access needs, and tablet needs to make sure that we're matching what everyone else in their school or their class will have. And I know that a lot of school districts have already been working on this, have already purchased a lot of tablets and a lot of laptops, but I think less of them have been in the hotspot business. But we know that for a virtual classroom, that's very important to have that high-speed access available to all the kids in the community so they can be just as robust in the virtual classroom as everyone else.
So just to be clear, it's gonna be in-person classes and online classes available? Is that?
Most school districts in the county announced last week that they would begin the school year in a virtual-only learning environment. We expect more districts to make an announcement this week about their plans. All districts have a plan for all virtual, and all districts have a plan for hybrid models, and it just depends on where we are with coronavirus in our community as which one of those plans are executed in 3 weeks when school opens. And from what we've heard from last week, most districts in St. Louis County have chosen to start the year in a virtual-only learning environment, at least for the first quarter. And we hope we can drive down the coronavirus levels, numbers, cases in our community so we can get kids back into at least a hybrid model and an in-classroom learning opportunity.
Off the top of your head, you know how many thousand students pre-K through senior high school there are in the county?
The number I've heard is always 300,000, so somewhere around 300,000 students in St. Louis County.
And again, that's pre-K through 12th grade, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this, like I said before, this isn't the school year that we wanted, but this is the new normal until we have widespread acceptance of our social distancing guidelines, mask wearing, our crowd limits. And when we get there, we slow the spread of coronavirus in our community, then we can talk about a better chance at in-classroom learning, which we all understand is important.
Do you have any updates on what private schools are doing?
The independent schools are in constant communication with our health department, following the trends. And at this point, I believe that most independent schools are planning on an in-classroom learning experience or a hybrid model. But that's you're monitoring the situation every day. We're in close contact with them, and we will support them in their activities.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay? Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks, Dr. Page.